What's up everybody, it's Nick from Podcast Now, and I'm here to give you some tips and tricks for Halo Wars 2 on Xbox One and PC. The first tip I have for you is to play at least the first 2 tutorials. Even if you already know how to play RTSs and you think you don't need them, Halo Wars 2 has some differences in its RTS style that other games don't have, so it'll be worth it just to do them whether you're new or returning to RTS games. The second trick I have for you is actually in-game. The first thing you want to make when you get in-game is a supply pad and a power generator. Those are your 2 highest priority buildings. You can't get far in the game without resources, so you definitely want to build those right away and upgrade them, and when you expand you want to build more of them. That leads me into the next trick, which is the more stuff that you can take over early on in the game, the better it is. You want to capture and build anywhere you can, as long as it doesn't cost you like too many units or resources, just to get that early game edge. Even if the enemy takes it away from you or you lose it because of something else, at least you had it for a little bit, which is better than nothing. The next trick is about leader powers. Don't ignore your leader powers. Use them. I kind of ignored them for the first couple games because I didn't really understand them, and I wonder why I kept getting the crap kicked out of me by AIs. The leader powers, and they're different for each leader obviously, they're very important to the game. They let you do some really cool stuff without being too specific. They can totally change the outcome of a fight, and by extension that, the entire match. So learn what your leader's powers are, which ones you want, and make sure you use them. So my next tip is kind of falls in the same light as that last one. Another thing that you shouldn't just ignore are unit upgrades. You should try to purchase them whenever you can, when you have excess energy. All upgrades just cost energy, and they're game-wide, so even if you already have some units out, when you get the upgrade, those units, I think you have to bring them back to base though, but those units will get the upgrade too. The upgrades are very important. They're not something that you should just see as like, oh, well, if I like that unit or I use that unit a lot, I'll get the upgrade. Like, you should get as many upgrades as you can. Just, if anything, prioritize your favorite units, but don't only upgrade your favorite units and then, just ignore the unit upgrades for the rest of them. Yet another early game tip. Most of these are going to end up being early game because that's how you actually get ahead. You want to try to get better units as fast as you can, and what I mean by that is you have your default 1 or 2 units that you start with at your main base, but as soon as you can, you want to build a barracks and start getting some of those upgraded units. Don't ignore them, definitely use them, but you want to just make the barracks right away, like 3rd or 4th thing you should make behind the supply pad and the power generator. Make a barracks, get a few of those units in the mix, try to get counters to everything. That leads me to my next tip, which you will find this out in the tutorial, but I thought it was worth mentioning anyways. In Halo Wars RTS, the way it's designed is a lot of units are counters and pros and cons to each other. So some units are, for example, the Marines destroy air units very well, and the air units destroy tanks very well, and the tanks destroy infantry really well. Infantry destroy air destroys tank destroys infantry. It's not always that simple, but that's kind of what it's built off of, or things like that. So you want to always look at the little pros and cons list it gives you every time you go to create a new unit. It'll give you a pros and cons in the upper right hand corner. You want to look at that and decide if that unit's worth making, or what units are worth making, what units you need more of versus what the enemy has. The next trick is, I kind of mentioned this before, but different commanders change how you play. So the leaders that you can pick, they not only like change the power-ups you're gonna get and stuff, they actually kind of change how, I guess, the faction works, if you can call it a faction. So there's, you know, really only like, I mean, it's not called it in this, but there's the Covenant and the UNSC. But each leader kind of changes how they play and what units are available and stuff. You know, make sure you're trying them all and make sure you know that that's a feature, because if not, you could suffer yourself or versus an enemy. Now, this next tip is kind of PC only. I mean, Xbox could benefit from it too, but I don't know exactly how the controls work. This is a real-time strategy game, so it's real time. Things are going on. It's very fast-paced. It can be hectic. That's why hotkeys and keyboard shortcuts are your friend. You need to learn what the hotkeys are, what they do, and you need to use them. Or if that doesn't work, you need to change them to something that makes more sense to you that you can use. I'm sure there's some similar setup with the controller. I don't have an Xbox One controller, so I haven't even been able to try it. But for the people playing on PC, it's gonna help like way more than you realize, learning the hotkeys and learning how to use hotkeys versus, moving around the map with just WASD and the mouse. Alright, and my last tip for you guys today, I almost didn't include this one, but I decided to anyways. You need to find out what units do what best and use the right units to scout the map. It doesn't sound important, but in an RTS game, when you have the fog of war around the map and you don't know where everything is and you don't know where the enemy is, you need to have a couple units dedicated to being lookouts and scouting around the map for you. You should develop your own system. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but it's a good thing to put out there that, don't just huddle around your base and wait for the enemy to come to you. And you need to be aware of your surroundings at all times. That's how you're going to end up being a good player. Alright, those were some tips and tricks for Halo Wars 2 on Xbox One and PC. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned, there will be more videos for Halo Wars 2 from Podcast Now. I'm Nick, and make sure you like and share and subscribe. And comment if you have any questions or thought I left anything out.